Right, guys, we're here with Lynsay McCune, who has been a long-term Fit Body Farm member. She also enjoys some high rocks, some obstacle course stuff, and just general fitness. So, Lynsay, you've been at the farm for a number of years, and during that period, you've had different attempts, let's say, at losing weight, etc. So, tell us a little bit about that and why it's maybe not worked previously.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been at the farm for over 10 years now, and I think in that time, I've put on weight, lost weight, that whole time consistently. And I think I was having to think about it actually, about what was different this time to what was different before, and a lot of it was actually I hadn't probably dealt with the underlying, like the why I was maybe overeating or not taking care of my diet the way I should be. So I was following a process, I was losing weight, but then the old habits kicked back in, so the stressors or the work or the excuses kicked back in, and I would put that weight back on. So I think up to the point of last year, I hadn't really dealt with the underlying stuff, so I was still binge eating, I was still hiding stuff in the car, I was still, overeating when I was going out, and food was constantly in my brain that whole time. Because I hadn't dealt with the underlying root cause of what was the why I wasn't consistently keeping that weight off. So I think that's been the issue with my fluctuation up to now.
Okay, so at what point did you say enough's enough, or what triggered you to take a different approach?
Yeah, so kind of probably last year, I've always had kind of various different injuries, everyone does, but last year I had consistent pain that we couldn't diagnose. So I'd been to multiple doctors, had multiple scans, and they couldn't figure out what was causing the problem. There wasn't a thing. So I was going back and forth to hospitals and trying to figure out what was going on. And at the time, kind of two things happened at the same time. So someone took a picture of me at a High Rocks event when I wasn't posed and aware of what was going on, and sent that to me, and I saw probably really clearly for the first time what I actually looked like. And then the second thing was I actually found a doctor who would listen to the fact that I was going through all this stuff. I had pain in my chest that I couldn't, figure out what was happening. And they had a really quite brutal and honest conversation with me to say that actually all the symptoms that I was having and all the symptoms that I was explaining to them could actually be weight related. And that had never happened before. I've always been told that you're just a bigger girl, or you're really strong, you're still really fit and healthy. And in my mind, I was that person. And it wasn't until someone actually said to me, actually, you're just a bit overweight. And actually that's what could be causing all this pain. And we're not going to do anything else until you do something about that. That, I think, was the kind of like, holy moly moment, like, oh my God, like actually for the first time someone's had a proper honest conversation with me. So I went home that night, had to think about it, looking at the pictures, and almost it was kind of like I didn't recognise myself after I'd had that honest conversation. I was thinking, this is me, and I am overweight, and I'm still fit and healthy, but something's not right. So decided at that point that something needed to change. Yeah.
Okay, so you had some brutal honesty.
Yeah.
And then what approach did you take that was maybe different from before?
Yeah, so I think in previous years, I would do the whole new year, new me thing. So I'd make this big declaration of all the things I was going to do that year. And it didn't work. So I would fail, and then the old triggers would come back. So at the first hurdle that I would come across, I would go back to being that emotional eater that I was. And then I would just fall off the wagon again. Or I would kind of make these big fitness declarations, right? This year I'm going to run a half marathon, right? Like I would make these big things and then not do the training to kind of back it up. This time I didn't do that. So I looked at all the things that didn't work for me and kind of reversed them and said, well, these big declarations of fitness and being healthy isn't working, so I'm just not going to do that this year. So I didn't tell anybody that I was doing anything, didn't tell anybody that I was going to try and lose weight, and I just chipped away at it gradually. When I lost weight a little bit for my wedding in 2012, what worked for me then was tracking and keeping, what was going in my mouth, every little morsel of food. So I went back to doing that. And for me, I'm not the type of person that can go home and cook like this elaborate meal, healthy meal. So I went back to batch cooking or eating the same thing all the time. I'm one of these types of people that can do that. So that worked for me. I knew that I could go home and make the same meal. I knew how many calories were in it, and it was dead simple. And simplicity worked for me this time. So taking everything that I had learned and that I knew what to do, you guys had taught me what to do over the last 10 years, taking that and putting that into practice, but not making any big, massive, I'm going to make these massive changes, just chipping away at it.
Yeah, no big statements.
No big statements, yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I love that part, definitely. So tell us, how much weight have you lost?
In total, I think I've hit about 90 pounds in total this year, yeah, or over the last kind of 12
Okay.
months.
So when people see the pictures or haven't seen you in a while,
Yeah.
the transformation's like unbelievable. Have you used weight loss jabs?
No, I haven't. And it's funny because I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head. So when I started this journey, a lot of people hadn't seen me for maybe 6 months after that. So the transformation looked really radical and fast, when in reality I'd been chipping away at that for months and months. And because I hadn't told MD, because I hadn't made these big declarations that I was doing, everyone maybe assumed or kind of thought that was maybe what had happened. But no, I haven't. I just went back to doing what I knew had worked for me in the past and dealing with the underlying issues that I knew were there and hadn't dealt with before.
I think that people maybe suspect you're using weight loss jabs as well because you've had a history of trying and then ultimately failing and then trying and then ultimately failing. So people maybe think, well, she's done something different that's radical this time, but actually you've just changed your mindset in your approach.
Behavior. Yeah, I dealt with the behavior. I'm a very emotional eater. I'm absolutely happy to admit that I would go to Tesco at night. I would, like, after class, I would go in and get my dinner, but quite happily buy packets of biscuits, not just packets of biscuits. And I would sit in the car before I went home and I would eat them because I'd had a bad day at work. Or, I had had an argument with a colleague, or, stuff wasn't working, or I was feeling in pain all the time. I was feeling a bit depressed, quite frankly, like it was awful. I couldn't get rid of it. And that's how I dealt with those feelings. So instead of doing that same thing that I'd done before, I dealt with why I would do that and change that trigger. So that trigger wasn't there anymore. Therefore, my mindset was completely different this time round.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible turnaround you've had, and it's been amazing to witness it. Tell people who maybe don't know, like, what are some of the things you could do now and some of your achievements that you hadn't been able to do before?
Everything, really. I think one of the things and I think that's another thing that probably made people question the change, because I've gone from not being able to run to almost running immediately. But I think that's because I was consistent in my training still all the way through. So actually what's happened is I've just got rid of the blocker, and all the fitness is still there technically. I've just built on it and it's been much easier to build on. So yeah, I went out and I'm now consistently running 10Ks. I couldn't run a 10K if you paid me money to a year ago. I would have really struggled to. I've done... What
time can you do a 10K?
56 minutes now. So my previous time was 1 hour 20. So
amazing.
So yeah. I've knocked about, I don't know, an hour and a half now nearly off my high rocks time.
Wow.
which is ridiculous.
So you're doing...
I was doing 2:45 and now 2:37, aiming for 2:30-ish. Yeah.
And I've witnessed you pretty much walking the entire high rocks.
Walking, yeah, I would, yeah. So Birmingham, this time last year, I walked the entire thing. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the women's pro weights, 2 hours 45, and now your best time is
1:37.
And that's the women's pro weights. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I see there's a shiny trophy there next to you. What's that for?
So this was for Transformation of the Year Coach's Choice that I got at the Christmas night out this year. Yeah.
Fantastic. Anything else that you would like to say that I maybe haven't asked you?
I don't think so. No, I think maybe don't make assumptions. Don't, like, when people are going through their journey. I've had amazing support from everyone, and that has continued all the way through. But I have had some people that have maybe assumed and had conversations with me without being curious. So maybe if someone is going through their journey and they have lost maybe a lot of weight, maybe be curious rather than assume that what they've done. So yeah, that would be my only advice, because it's very prevalent now. It's in the media, it's out there. Everyone kind of just assumes that's what you're doing. Maybe just don't make those assumptions.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome, Lynsay. Love you.
Love you.